At the start of 2026, I made a decision. I was going to stop making music out of thin air. No more staring at a blank project, waiting for something to show up. No more forcing ideas that weren't really there yet. Instead, I was going to find real people online, people saying something or singing something that actually sparked something in me. And then I was going to turn that into a song. But here's where it gets interesting. I wasn't going to decide alone. I'd bring the clip here, you'd see what I found, and you'd tell me go or no go. Democracy Manifest was a go, and I genuinely had no idea what I was getting myself into. Let me explain where this whole idea came from, because it didn't start with a grand vision, it started with frustration. Making music from nothing is hard. Not technically hard, but creatively hard in a way that's difficult to explain if you haven't felt it yourself. You sit down, you open your DAW, and you just wait for something to arrive, for an idea that feels worth chasing. Sometimes it does, and sometimes you sit there for 2 hours and close your laptop and go make a coffee and pretend the session never happened. I've done that more times than I want to admit. And when it keeps happening, you start wondering if the problem is you, if you dried up creatively, if you just don't have enough to say anymore. But I don't think that's what it is. I think it's about the starting point. Because the internet is full of moments. Strange ones, funny ones, intense ones, people giving speeches nobody asked for, people singing in their cars, people saying something so specific and so bizarre that it sticks with you for days. And I thought, what if that's the material? Not as a gimmick, not as content, but as a genuine creative constraint. Find a person, find a moment, make it into something. The rule I set for myself is simple. It had to be a real person. Speaking or singing, their voice, their words, their energy, that was the raw material. Everything else I'd figured out as I went. But there's one more layer, and that's the part that changed everything. So before I start making anything, I show a short clip to you.
Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Gentlemen.
Please tell me, do I make a full song from this idea or not? The people have spoken. And you vote. Go or no go. Which sounds simple, but it changes the whole thing. Because suddenly it's not just my experiment, you're in it too. You are deciding what gets made, you have stake in it. And that creates something I genuinely didn't expect. When a song gets a go, when you say yes, make this, there's a kind of collective curiosity about where it ends up. And you're invested in the outcome because you were part of the decision. And when I bring the finished song back, it lands differently. Because it's not just me presenting something I made, it's the result of something we started together. Democracy Manifest was one of those. I found the clip, I brought it here, you said go. Thanks. And then I had to actually figure out what to do with it. Alright, Jack Carlson 1991, the year I was born. If you haven't seen it, picture this. A man getting arrested, officers on either side of him, and in the middle of it all, completely calm, completely certain of himself, he looks at the camera and says,
Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest.
That's it. That's the line. And the first time I heard it, I laughed. Because it's absurd. The timing, the delivery, the total unshakable conviction. It sounds like something from a film, but it's real. And then I watched it again and again, and something started to shift. Because underneath the absurdity, there was something else. This man, in a moment of complete loss of control, trying to reframe everything as a statement, as something meaningful, as history. And I thought, okay, that's actually interesting. That's not nothing. So I brought it here. Played the clip, asked the question, go or no go? You said go. And I opened my DAW with absolutely no idea what I was about to make. So this is the song, the finished song. I started with a blank project, just the audio file of Jack Carlson sitting up there. I cut it up into sections.
Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest.
That's like the message of the whole song of that clip. So the first thing I did was grab a guitar, because the clip has this forward energy, it moves, it's urgent, and I wanted something that matched that. Something a bit angular, not quite settled.
Gentlemen, this is Democracy Manifest. Have a look at the headlock here. See that?
So pretty simple, but with the subtle energy. I found the chords in basically 5 minutes, which is usually a good sign. From there I knew pretty quickly how I wanted to use the clip in the actual song. Intro and outro. His words exactly as he said them, framing everything else. And everything in between, that was mine to figure out. The verses are entirely my own. No sample, no Carlson. Just me trying to write something that felt worth putting inside that frame. The clip gave me a theme more than anything. Ego, the performance of authority, the gap between what's said and what's real. So the first verse starts here.
Golden halls and silver spoons, they toast while cities burn.
Golden hall, silver spoon, cities burning, while someone raises a glass somewhere.
Promises and photo ops.
That line came pretty fast, because that's the thing, right? There's always a gesture toward the people, and it's rarely followed by anything real. And then the second verse goes a little bit harder.
Every smiling tyrant on a glowing TV screen, selling us a nightmare and branding at the dream.
That one took a bit longer, because I wanted it to feel specific without naming anyone. But you all know who I'm talking about. The image of the screen felt right. That layer of performance, the packaging of something harmful as something aspirational. And then the second half of that verse, the most physical one, streets, feet, the actual weight of people pushing back.
Ego is loud. Ego is loud. Truth rarely finds a throne. Who hears the streets? People feel it in their bones.
I wanted the song to move somewhere by the end of it, not just observe, but land somewhere that felt like momentum. The chorus came from the clip in a pretty direct way, because honestly, the first time I watched it, that was my reaction.
Yes.
That's also pitched. Now I'll just add the backing vocals. Yeah. It's almost involuntary. You just can't believe it's real. And I wanted that feeling to be part of the song. That moment of disbelief tipping into something almost joyful. And then underneath it,
We gave it our best. Democracy manifest. The leader is gone. Time for a new one.
that line is mine. But it came straight from thinking about the clip. There's this cycle, someone performs authority, it collapses, we move on, it happens again. Time for a new one isn't hopeful or cynical, really, it's just honest about how this tends to go with leaderships nowadays. The backings stacking up on the ooh and the ah, yes, that was important because I wanted it to feel collective, like a room full of people who all had the same reaction at the same moment. Quick pause. If you're still here at this point in the video, you are contractually obliged to give it a like. I don't make the rules. Back to the song. The bridge was the last thing I figured out and the thing I'm happiest with, actually. Everything drops here. Just bass, guitar, a kick drum, and the vocals, and some small layers. Not too pushy, no big open chorus energy, because after 2 verses of looking at the same problem from different angles and 3 big choruses releasing all of that, I needed a moment that wasn't performing anything. The verses point outward, at the screen, at the halls, at the people on the podiums, but the bridge turns it around a bit. You can't fix any of that. You can't argue ego into silence, but you can choose where you put your attention.
Lift us up and tear us down, spin the blame.
Yeah, that's it. That's all it says. And then the chorus comes back one last time. This time I added some dramatic piano. Just MIDI. And of course a subtle guitar solo. And I find that the ooh and the ah yes hits differently after that, because it's not just disbelief anymore. There's something a bit defiant in it at that point. So yeah, why does a 1991 Arrest clip end up being about ego and noise and where you put your attention? Honestly, I didn't plan that. I started with a funny clip and a guitar riff, and somewhere in the middle of making it, the thing told me what it was about. Which sounds vague, I know, but I think most people who make things know what I mean. You start somewhere, you follow the thread, and at some point the work starts talking back. What this one kept saying to me was, this guy is a specific version of something very general. This absolute certainty, this performance of significance, this conviction that the moment is about you, that history is watching, that what you're saying matters more than anything else happening right now. And the more I sat with it, the more I recognized it. Not just in 1991, not just in Jack Carlson, but in how a lot of noise gets made right now. In how easy it is to perform certainty when you don't actually have answers. And what I kept coming back to was something pretty simple. You can't fix that. You can't control what other people do with their loudness. But you can choose what you give your attention to. And that's actually a decision you make constantly, whether you realize it or not. So, back to the bigger picture. This is one song, one clip, one goal from you. And the thing I find genuinely interesting about this experiment, now that it's actually running, is what it does to the process. Because I'm not sitting with a blank project anymore. I'm sitting with something real, something that already has energy in it. A voice, a moment, a specific human being doing a specific thing. And my job is to figure out what that wants to become, which is honestly so more interesting than starting with nothing. And it means every song in this series is going to be completely different, because the people are different, the clips are different, the energy is different. Democracy Manifest is fast and angular and a bit restless, and the next one might be the complete opposite, slow, minimal, something else entirely. I genuinely don't know yet. And for the first time in a while, I'm actually excited by that uncertainty instead of being stressed by it. Here's something that I have been sitting with since I started this. We tend to think that good creative work requires a clear vision from the start. You know what you're making, you know why, you have a plan. And sometimes that's true. But sometimes the most interesting things come from following something you don't fully understand yet. I didn't know why that clip wouldn't leave me alone, I just knew that it wouldn't. And I think there's something worth paying attention to in that, not just in music, but in anything you make. The things that stick, the ideas, the images, the moments that keep coming back. They're usually trying to tell you something, not always something profound. Sometimes it's just, hey, there's a song here, make it, point. But you have to be paying enough attention to notice. And you have to be willing to follow it before you know where it goes. So Democracy Manifest is out now. It started as a strange clip from 1991. It became a fast, slightly chaotic indie rock song about ego and noise and where you put your attention. And it exists because you told me to. If you want in on the next one, just go to my YouTube page and scroll through my shorts and you'll see a bunch of ideas there, and just comment. The more comments I get, the more I know that I should make full songs from those shorts. And if this video gave you anything, even just a slightly different way of thinking about what you follow and why, that's enough for me. The song is in the description on Spotify and Apple Music, and you can watch the full song here.